Hey folks, this is Jake at Canadian Cutting Edge. It is Saturday and you are going to be impressed with this. If you don't like slip joint knives, this will be the knife to change your mind. At least it's going to make a really good attempt at changing your mind. Watch this full video. If you don't like slip joints, just give it a watch anyways, because you need to know about this. SanRenMu has put out a slip joint that is exceptionally cool and good. And I love this thing. Now, it doesn't try to conform to all of the laws around the world. This isn't a carry everywhere kind of knife. The blade's over 3 inches long. And, it's a slip joint. That goes almost anywhere. But because of the blade length, that already breaks some laws. And I'm going to show you some more reasons why this thing is breaking some rules. It's breaking some design rules too. And really, really like this thing. It's a budget knife. You can get this thing for $20, $19.90 US at Knife Spot. And you've got some other versions with different handle options for $1.10 more, $21 even. You can get aluminum handle scales, or you can get this one, which is a carbon fiber laminate. And the base unit for $19.90 is black G10. So stick around for the full review of this guy coming at you right now. Like I said, this knife is a bit of a rule breaker. The first thing that it does on a slip joint that is a little uncommon, albeit this is definitely a modern slip joint, a modern traditional type of knife, is you got a pocket clip and you got a deep carry pocket clip. That's a good thing. You've got a little bit of the knife handle sticking out, but not much. Less than a centimeter, just a bit over 1/4 of an inch. That's cool. You've got style. Look at the holes in the handle. Those holes go all the way through, and that just adds a lot of styling to this knife, and it helps lighten it up a tiny bit too. Not heavy at all. This thing's under 3 ounces. I'll give you those details a little later on. We've got a full flat grind on this blade, and a nice thin edge, 12C27 stainless steel, which is a decent budget entry-level steel. The model number is 9165-KB. So this is a G10 handle scale with a layer of carbon fiber, but this is a textured carbon fiber. So if you're used to like the Ganzos with the carbon fiber that are super smooth, that's not this. This has actually got a nice texture to it. It gives that just a little bit extra grip, as do the holes. Really, really helpful that way. Let me adjust the lighting here. And what we have on this blade is a satin grind. So you've got the little bit satin lines down here. You've got a plunge that's sort of on a bit of a radius right there. That's one thing I don't like. I get close to this camera and the shadows just play stupid games with the thing. I'm waiting for a firmware update. So some other people are saying that there's problems with this thing too, and it's the firmware. So hopefully there's going to be a firmware for this cell phone. The cell phone is fairly new, so it should be performing like the other Xiaomi cell phones, and their camera firmware is much better. Well, the firmware for the whole thing, but especially the things that drive the camera and the features of it and stuff are better. So hopefully we'll get that fixed with a firmware update soon from Xiaomi. But back to the knife. Beautiful, beautiful final grind. Nice narrow cutting edge. This thing slices like a dream. It's got a fairly long distal taper starting right there. It starts tapering down to a point. Don't be prying with this thing. That tip will break off. And I don't mind this kind of knife. I don't pry with my knives anyways. I tend to carry other stuff that I can pry with, so it's really not a good idea, especially with this, especially with a budget steel and this long distal taper coming to a point. You've got a spring in here. This back spacer is really a spring. So if you're not familiar with old style slip joint knives, that spring pushes down on the tang, and see how it lifts up. If you're looking right there, watch how the steel lifts up, because that spring is pushing back on a flat part on the tang of the blade there to keep it in place. This one's got a half stop, which is more like a third stop. A lot of people don't like slip joint knives, especially in North America, because they're not used to using them and they end up cutting themselves and stuff. I just watched a Blade HQ video today, and they're talking about modern slip joints, and both of the guys on there were saying that they, cut themselves with them. They're both younger than I am. They didn't grow up with slip joints, and so they didn't learn how to properly use a slip joint. I've never, ever cut myself with a slip joint knife while I was opening or closing it. It just has never happened to me. Or when it got accidentally closed on me, that just has never happened either. Because when you're familiar with them, when you grow up with these things and learn how to use them, you're always putting pressure that way. And if you grow up with slip joint knives, hey, you use those same skills with locking knives and you'll always be safe. The locking mechanism on the knife could fail and you're still safe because you've learned how to properly use, a folding knife in the way that's always safe. But that's what I mean by properly, the safe way. The rest of what properly means is, hey, if you get the job done, if you cut what you're trying to cut, you're doing it right. Safe and get the job done. Hey, that's proper. I'm getting distracted again, aren't I? Just look at the beauty of this knife. It just looks awesome. This carbon fiber laminate looks really, really good. If they can afford it, well, actually they can. I'd like them to make an expensive version of this knife compared to this. This is $20. If they made a $50 version with solid carbon fiber and then had, just some more contouring to it and stuff, whew, that would look awesome. And then spend some more money on some other steels. A small upgrade would be 14C28N instead of 12C27. Maybe some D2 steel. SanRenMu, if you're listening, this knife deserves an upgrade. It deserves you to make upgraded versions of this thing. Hopefully this thing sells like hotcakes because it's awesome. I still haven't told you the special thing about this knife. There's something very special about this thing. You can take this knife apart if you want to. I do not suggest that you do that. I do not suggest that you take slip joint knives apart because they're under tension when you put them back together. And if you know about tension, that's pressure. And when the systems are under pressure with springs and you're trying to put it back together, it's really hard to get everything to line up just right. So if you don't need to, if you unless you're desperate, don't take this thing apart. Inside, basically, you've got the G10, and then all you have is a steel spring that goes all the way back, and it's not that wide. So I'm not going to take it apart to show you, but when you look inside, so you can see the steel spring down at the bottom there. The rest is all just G10. That's what helps this knife stay nice and light. So while I'm talking about the weight, let's pull out our little measuring tape right here, and we're going to go over all of the dimensions and measurements on this thing. The cutting edge and the blade length are the same, so the tip to the sharpener's choil and the tip to the G10, 9 centimeters, 3.54 inches. Yes, a 3.5 inch cutting edge on this knife. The thickness of the blade here is 3 millimeters. That's 0.118 inches. The blade depth is 2.4 centimeters, 0.943 inches. The thickness of the edge behind the grind is 0.4 millimeters. That's 16 thousandths of an inch. That's why she slices like a dream. A full flat grind, coming down only 3 millimeters thick from that thin cutting edge. Awesome. The grind angle, the final grind angle right here, 18.2 degrees on this side. Yep, the side that has the label. And the side with the logo is 20.1 degrees. Very, very good final grind. Whoever they've got sharpening these knives is doing a good job, and they need to be commended and keep doing their job just like they are. The handle length on this knife is 11.43 centimeters. That's 4.5 inches. 4.5 inches, 3.5 inches. Very good proportions. The grip area in here is 9.5 centimeters, 3 3/4 inches almost. And the handle thickness, it's almost a centimeter, almost 4.5 millimeters, 0.372 inches. So a third of an inch thick, just over. The handle depth, it's biggest back here and maybe right up there. It's almost the same on the two ends. That is 2.6 centimeters, just over an inch. And when you close the knife, now right here it is 3 centimeters. That's 1.17 inches. And the total length of this knife with the blade deployed, we're talking 20.55 centimeters, 8.1 inches. This thing is 78 grams, which is 2.75 ounces, 2 3/4 ounces. That's the whole thing, and 3.5 inches of cutting, and secure and solid. Well, talk about secure. How secure is this thing? I already mentioned the price, $19.90 or $21 for this model and the aluminum model. Yeah, you can get this with aluminum handle scale and sort of orange anodization. Hopefully they come up with more colors. That's $21. This carbon version is $21. Just straight G10 is $19.90 US from Knives Spot. I encourage you to buy from Knives Spot. They actually ship out of Asia, but you buy them online and you pay in US dollars. And Canadians, don't be scared of buying this knife. You buy this knife, they'll ship it to you. It'll get past CBSA, and there's absolutely no reason for a slip joint not to pass CBSA. So don't feel concerned or worried at all about buying this knife from outside of Canada. It's awesome. Now for the special feature. Are you ready? Are you ready for the special feature? This is the first time that this knife is being reviewed in English on YouTube. I've seen 2 other videos of this. One was like a minute long, and the other one was a good explanation. I'm not sure what language it was in, but watch this. There's a body screw. There's a body screw. What is this? I showed it in the unboxing. You just use the side of your nail or whatever, and then you can use your nails to pull this out, and you've got this little pin. I'll show you a close-up of that. What's that pin for? It's for going right in here. Clickety-click, barba trick. Yeah, I'm getting a little old. I used to watch the Barba Papas. If you're not familiar with those, look those up on YouTube. It's a cool cartoon for little kids. Might not be politically correct anymore. I don't know. I don't remember if it was borderline or not, because when I was a kid, it was just fun. But I'm talking about this. That pin goes through this spring and on top of the tang of the blade right there, and it's locked. You can't close this thing now. You would have to shear that pin or totally bend the tang of the handle. You'd have to destroy this thing to close it now. And it's got a little retention detent clip on that little ring there. Not a detent ball, but a bit of a detent. So that's not going to fall out easily. I've tried all kinds of stuff. This pin has never moved through all my testing. I was doing some spine whacking to have vibrations, and I was doing it, down this way and then whacking the spine so gravity would pull on that pin as best it can. No movement whatsoever. This blade is locked, but there's a tiny bit of up-down play. Yeah, maybe they could fine-tune the tolerances a tiny bit so there's a little bit less play, but no big deal. There's no side-to-side play with this knife. It's beautiful. Oh, I love this knife. $20. Amazing. I'm going to be buying some more of the different colors of this thing. I just love this thing so much. And it's a knife style that's great it's great to introduce somebody to knives. Yes, locking knives are really cool, but most people, if they're brand new to knives, they've got trouble with locking mechanisms. And this thing, you don't have to use the pin. And, you take the pin and you store it back in here, and it's not going to fall out of there either. And they love knives like this because they can just close it, and when they want to use it, they can just open it. It just works great. Of course, they can use thumb stud if they want to, and you can close it with one hand. It's a little more dangerous because you have to make sure the tips of your fingers don't come up over that. But you can close it with one hand. I don't suggest it until you're quite experienced with it, but or you can hold the knife like this and push down on the spine and do a one-hand closing. But you can close it with one hand. while it's just in the air, not touching anything else, once you get used to it. It's a great little knife that I just love. SanRenMu, you knocked it out of the park, and you gave it a price point that anybody can afford. Well, just about anybody. Maybe they've got to wait a couple of weeks to get the $20, but wow. So SanRenMu, I'm suggesting better steel. Make a version of this with a Bowie clip point. Make a version of this maybe with a Tanto, 14C 28N, some more different anodization colors. There's no reason to put a pocket clip on the left side on a slip joint, but maybe some people want a pocket clip on the left side. But I think this thing's going to be an awesome knife. I really hope it takes off. Do this exact same idea and make a version that's got a 3-inch blade. Make it 2.95 inches. And there's more and more countries that are going to want, that have people that are going to want this knife, because there's some laws that are 3 inches. And, for the guy that, if there's a really strict rules in that country, they don't need to use the pin. The guy could put it in a safe place in storage at home and, carry it around without the pin if he thinks that, he or she can't use it that way. But for everybody else, wow. I don't know why I am so enamored with this knife. Well, I know why, because it's awesome. The design work is great. It looks great. It's constructed very well. The fit and finish of this thing is beyond $20 knives, what you usually find for $20. Sharpness choil is awesome. It's just great texture, the handle options. It's a great slicing knife. It cuts very well. Yeah. I can't say enough good things about this knife, and I am so happy to be able to bring this knife to the masses in English, because it's just so good. So if you're looking for a budget knife and you have to have a slip joint, but you can be over 3 inches, the 9165 is for you. And even if you want locking knives, like say you're in North America, and as long as you can have 3.5 inches, this knife can lock. It can't lock, in an instant, but you can make it lock if you want to. And it's just a really, really great knife. You can put that pin in there and then practice using this as if it doesn't have the pin. And, it's got that tiny bit of movement when it's locked. So you'll notice when you're doing something wrong, but you should be able to do almost anything that you need to do with the knife with a slip joint. The only thing that you can't do very easily in a safe way is, stab into something, because if there's any chance that you're going to go this way when you're stabbing into it, then you can slice your hand. But as long as you're always moving forward a little bit, this thing will always work for you in a beautiful, beautiful way. I'm going to take some nice still pictures of this thing and put some more of them up on Instagram. I've got some pictures on Instagram already. For those of you who know, I'm on Facebook and Instagram. The 9165. I think I should just stop talking, because I'm just babbling on over and over the same stuff. And some people are going to give me a thumbs down for that. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys are a godsend. Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you who like the videos, clicking on like, leave a comment, leave some questions. What would you like to see? What steel would you like to see on this knife? What handle options would you like to see? What blade configurations would you like to see? I hope SanRenMu is going to read all of these and recognize that this knife is a winner, and they can go a long ways with this knife with some, just a few changes to it to make it even more popular. Keep doing this, but also do some other things. So there you go. Remember, guys, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.